Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reedy with Future Pastimes, and I'm a designer on expansions for the classic Dune board game. In this video, we're going to be talking about a power alliance called the Blue Alliance, and that is one that's between Bene Gesserit and Moritani. And it's blue because they're both blue, dark blue, light blue. Try not to overthink these things. So, what are the strengths of the Blue Alliance? Well, we're going to start off with, of course, the Bene Gesserit have access to the voice, which is arguably one of the most powerful advantages in the game, and it's one that they can share with their ally, or rather the Bene Gesserit can use it on the behalf of their ally. So that's always going to be a potent mix, and always one of the best reasons why you're going to have the Bene Gesserit as your ally. But the other strength here is the ability of Moritani to use their terror tokens to funnel factions to where they want to go. So often the presence of a terror token is going to act as a deterrent, which is going to make other factions very reluctant to go to the stronghold where that is. And this alliance should take advantage of that, because what's going to happen is people are going to ship into the other strongholds. Bene Gesserit can send along advisors. Of course, we're talking advanced rules here. And that means that it's going to be easier for the Bene Gesserit to stockpile forces in certain strongholds. And if the Moritani are using their terror tokens as deterrents for where they are, that means that the Bene Gesserit allies can build up in the 2 or so strongholds that they're going to need to be in order to win their battles there. And I think a good Moritani player is really thinking carefully about which tokens they're going to place where and when. Everyone's really afraid of the atomics token, but I tend to hold off on that one until later in the game. Of course, Carthage is often a favorite location for Moritani players to put that token, and that is because when it does go off, you can no longer ship directly into Carthage, and that means that going for a win by shipping into Carthage and then moving into Arakeen or into Siege Tabor is much more challenging. So you can still move into Carthage or wherever the atomics token goes off. And of course, using the atomics token, once it's revealed, that means that both Moritani and their ally have their hand size reduced by 1. So that's why I'm not usually keen to use it very early in the game. But there are other tokens that are good. Assassination is probably one of my favorite ones to use as a deterrent, even though nobody knows which one is there. But I know if somebody's going to call my bluff and they're going to send forces into a stronghold where I have forces and a terror token, I like to use assassination because it pops one of that faction's leaders, kills them, and I get the spice for it. So that's a good one. Another one to think about too is the sneak attack. And you have to be careful about where you place sneak attack, because if you put it into a stronghold that Moritani is not in, if there's a faction already there and another faction goes in, triggering it doesn't really do anything, because the sneak attack is send up to 5 of your forces into that territory at no cost. So it's a better token to place where Moritani has forces so that they can freely bolster those forces. So that is a handy thing to do with that. The other one, sabotage, is a good one here because you're going to get rid of one of their treachery cards. If they're coming in there to attack you, then you want to trigger that. They're going to lose, hopefully, a weapon or a defense. And if you happen to have a garbage card, like a worthless card, you can then unload it and give it to them. So it's a little added bonus, but it's the takeaway that is the strong part of sabotage. Some of the other ones, the robbery, if it's the Emperor, for instance, moving in there, stealing half of their spice. Same thing with the guild. That may put a dent in their ability to full dial if they've spent a lot of spice to ship a huge force down, and then they're relying on having spice in order to be able to full dial. A lot of times, though, they're like, hey, take half. I'm at 40 spice. You can take half of it. Who cares? So if that's the case, it's not going to be as effective. Although getting 20 spice is also not a bad thing for you to do. So I think that's one of the things that I like to focus on with the Blue Alliance, is really trying to be careful about coordinating with my ally about where we're going to put terror tokens and where we're going to send advisors, so that we can be as strong as possible in those 4 strongholds to go for the win. Ideally, we're like, yeah, we've got 10 forces each in there. That's usually not achievable, but a large force, depending on the turn order, that can be very effective in helping you to win a battle, especially when you don't know for sure if you can kill an opposing leader or protect your own leader. But then, of course, the voice does help to mitigate that. For the Bene Gesserit, they're going to be in a more favorable position to get into battles, because they've got the voice, they've got the 5 strength leaders, and they're going to have a little bit of a safety net with their alliance ability that Moritani gives them, of being able to keep one of their treachery cards if they lose a battle. So normally, you don't want to get into a battle that you don't feel fairly confident that you can win. But it's nice to know that, like, all right, I've got this good weapon that I don't want to lose if we lose the battle. That is not as big a concern anymore, because that Moritani lets you keep that weapon if you do lose it. So that will help the Bene Gesserit to feel a little more confident about getting into battles on their own. Now, they, of course, if they can, Moritani can get into 2 battles in strongholds. They will have Duke Vidal, 6 strength leader with no traitor card. So that means there's no traitor call. There's no face dancer reveal in that battle. That's only 1 out of potentially 4 or even more battles that they're going to be getting into to go for the win. But again, any kind of little bit of a safety net is always nice to get. And of course, if the Moritani can be assassinating leaders leading up to a go for the win, that feeds into their ability to really weaken the other factions. And if they can get lucky with their draws on replacement traitor cards, then they can hopefully weaken several factions before they push for the win. So this is the Blue Alliance is not an early game alliance to go for the win, because they both factions want to take a few turns to build up their strength of their forces, to build up their deterrence with the terror tokens, to take advantage of the free shipment with the advisors, because neither of these factions has an income. So that's going to be a concern for them. In advance, Bene Gesserit are going to get their 2 spice every turn. They may want to, when you form this alliance, if you're not going for the win, go for spice so that you can fund your win attempt later on. Moritani have a couple of ways they can get some spice with their terror tokens. They'll get some for assassinating, hopefully a good leader, but, you know, it might be a Jamis or a Uman Kadu. Extortion gets them a little bit of spice. With robbery, it's often more tempting to go for the free treachery card, especially if you've got Ixians or Atreides in the game, so that you can nullify that card knowledge a little bit. You can pay attention, though, if Ixians are in the game, if they put likely a crappy card on top of the deck, you don't want to be the one who's getting it. So hopefully somebody like the Harkonnen are going to take that card, and then it's an unknown quantity on there when it's time to decide to reveal robbery and how you're going to use it. So you're either going to get half of somebody's spice or a free treachery card, and that's going to be a judgment call for you. The enemy of my enemy, of course, for Moritani is a way to get out of an alliance with Bene Gesserit that's not working out, but I like to look at it as a good way to get into an alliance with Bene Gesserit when nobody's expecting it. So the Bene Gesserit, maybe right before shipping a movement, they flip in a bunch of their territories. Now, that flipping to fighters does not trigger terror tokens, because even advisors can trigger terror tokens. It's the little exception to the rule that that they can use, but the advisor can also trigger enemy of my enemy, and that is really interesting. Of course, they're going to have an advisor in that territory rather than a fighter. So we gotta weigh that out and look at this board state every time you are potentially triggering enemy of my enemy to see does it make sense. But the real strength of it is when a faction is going very late, preferably last in turn order, and they're situated in such a way that by triggering that alliance through enemy of my enemy, you guys are already then positioned in at least 4 strongholds to go for the win, and hopefully in 1 or 2 of them, if not more, uncontested. So those are my thoughts on the Blue Alliance. Let me know if you have any other insights or questions about the Alliance. And if you've seen this Alliance in action, let us know about it in the comments. Whether you were part of it or having to fight against it, what was that like? And share those thoughts with us. That's it, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.